Hi, David Odell. We're at the first day on the job site and we're going to do an apron approach. It's going to be a circular driveway. They already have one approach there. There's the existing garage. They have a semicircle here now and we're just going to continue it, make another approach here. That white paint you see there is what I outlined, and that you have to do to get dig alert out here to mark the underground utilities. All this other paint you see is from the city, Southern California Gas, Edison, and that's about all we had out here. There's really nothing underground here in this area, so we're clear. What we're gonna do, we're gonna move all these rocks right here. We're gonna go over there, and the rocks over here. All these rocks are gonna head over there, in between those palms. This entire sidewalk's coming out. These orange marks here is actually from the city inspector. This is the portion of the sidewalk that's going to be removed. The reason it's going actually over what we really need to remove, but you can see there's some cracks here and some grinding they had done. They did some grinding here. So basically they want us to remove all this rather than just where the actual approach is setting. And the sidewalk on the driveway approach has to be 6 inches deep, as well as the approach has to be 6 inches deep on native, firm or undisturbed native ground. Let's take a look at the standard drawing from the city of Fullerton, and we can take a look at that and see if it matches up what I just said. Now most cities have this on hand, and this tells you what you have to do in order to do any off-site work. This is basically in the public right-of-way where we're working today. So depending on your curb height, that's your wings coming up the ramp for the top of X. That's 2'6". If it was a 6-inch curve, we have an 8-inch curve face, so we got to go with the 3-foot wings. And then you look at the top view here. So since we have 8-inch curb height, that point, this X is going to be 3 feet right here, 3 feet here, 10% max slope, front of sidewalk to curb, 2% max on your city sidewalk. Now here's your front view. There's your wing coming down. That's 3 foot, 3 foot. That's your depressed curb right here to drive up on. Now there's 2 scenarios you can use according to this. One is remove all the curb and gutter and then pour a new curb and gutter with the recessed portion in it. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to get a horizontal cutting machine. We're going to cut the existing curb sideways. Like right now we have a curb that goes all the way across. We're going to take a saw and cut the wing, cut the bottom, and cut up. So we're going to leave the existing curb, which saves you a lot of money in the long run because you don't have to remove, in this particular situation, if you did remove the curb and gutter, you'd have to remove 1 foot of street, just like they did here. See what we did? Someone did an approach here at one time, and you can see the street. They removed that chunk just to do this approach, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. When you cut into the street, you weaken the whole integrity of the whole thing. But so we don't have to deal with the street in this situation. All we have to do is horizontal curb cut and then dig down 6 inches sidewalk approach and pour. It's real simple situation here. All right, let's get down to business.
Yeah.
So here we are. We're getting ready to download the equipment now. We're going to get the little mini skid steer down and start removing, separating the lava rock. We'll lay that to the side. The big boulders, we'll stockpile that. And we'll go back probably a couple feet from both edges of the formwork where the new approach is going to be. So we have some walking space between the new concrete and the boulders, so we don't have to trip over them, in other words. We have to make 2 saw cuts in the existing sidewalk. So the nice thing about this this mini skid, it's only 36 inches wide, and the city sidewalk here is 4 feet, so we can go up and down it really easily. This machine weighs about 3,600 pounds, and it's spread out on long tracks, so it doesn't put a lot of weight on the ground at any given spot. That's a steel cutoff saw that we're using there with a 12-inch diamond blade. No, that's a 14-inch diamond blade. Now we have the breaker attachment here. So first of all, I'm just going to kind of break it all up into about 18-inch squares. Once I break it all up, I'll switch out buckets, and then I'll start scooping it up. Once we get all this dirt and concrete out of here, we have to start digging. We'll start digging the approach down on an angle, and we got to get that just to bring in the horizontal curb cutting machine. We need to get down 12 inches below top of curb. That allows enough space to get that machine behind there and cut the actual approach. Here's one of the guys that just came up, and he was locating possible underground utilities. And he just assured me that there's nothing here, as long as we're not going below. If we're not going down at least about 3 feet, we're not going to hit anything. And you can see by this tractor as it's going over this, almost 4,000 pounds, that it's really not sinking in this ground at all. It's really packed tight. But that's normally what you get when you get an undisturbed soil condition for so many years. It kind of compresses itself over time with water and just native, and gravity, of course, has a big part of compaction. Right here we're starting to cut the slope for the new apron approach. What we're going to end up having here in the end is a complete circular driveway, because this particular property is very wide in the front, so there was space to get two driveway entrances. And what you have to have in order to get 2 driveway entrances, at least in the city of Fullerton, you need 20-foot space in between the 2 approaches. In other words, they want to be you want to be able to park another vehicle in front of your house on the street. Basically, that's the whole idea of that. Now right there, we just pulled the line to check our grade. And that's the front side of a city sidewalk we pull a line on. And now we can pull a line down. That's an 8-inch curve face. Hi, David Odell here. This is our second day in the early morning. This is what we accomplished yesterday. Complete removal. And we've prepped this for the horizontal curb cut. The machine that's going to be coming comes in overhead and it hangs down and cuts off of the truck. And it's on a track and it slides all the way across, cutting this curb 1 inch above the flow line, and then it angles the wings coming up as well. But that'll all be on video. That's going to happen today. Plus, we're going to form this over here where we got to continue the driveway down to back a sidewalk. So we're going to put some felt expansion. That way we can do a monolithic pour here. Otherwise, we'd have to pour separately because they want a cold joint between sidewalk, on site and off site. So I'll just put expansion felt across there, pour it all at once. Well, that's the plan today. Stay tuned. All right. I think I set this form. Set this form. So we checked our grade, and we're just going to trim a little more dirt out right where the actual driveway is going to go, because we need 6 inches on the city sidewalk there and 6 inches on the approach itself. On the standard drawing provided by the city, it shows a 6 inches deep approach city sidewalk where the driveway occurs on native. There's a sprinkler line right there. We're going to end up removing that. There's one more line that was down near the approach side. That's going to come out as well because there is no water on the parkway. It's been abandoned. We will put a future sleeve, however, on back of sidewalk that can be utilized later. Now here's the curb cutting machine, horizontal curb cutting machine. It's hydraulically driven. This took about 45 minutes to make this cut here. And grind, he grinded a little radius on both sides, front and back of curb. There's the hand grinder. Everything's wet cut, so there will be a little bit of water in the dirt there. And what we're going to do with that is just scrape the top off. We will be getting an inspection today. We have an inspection scheduled between 12 and 3 o'clock of this day. And right now, that curb cut went in at about 7:30 a.m. So now we've got to set it up. We've got to scrape some of that excess mud out and get it ready for the inspector that will be arriving within about 3-4 hours. Right there, we're using that battery operated Milwaukee cutoff saw there just to trim up the existing driveway because it had an irregular edge on it. We will drill a couple dowels into that existing driveway also. Then what we're going to do, because we're doing a monolithic pour on this whole package on and off site, a lot of times what happens between the on site and off site is you need either a cold joint or some kind of expansion joint to separate the two. Just in case you have to do a removal in the future, the city for some reason or the homeowner removes the driveway, they don't have to get into the off site or the on site either way. That's what the expansion felt is for in this particular case. Now we're setting up all the 6-inch areas that's required here. It will be set with 2x6s. Everything else that really doesn't need to be 6 inches is going to be set with 2x4. Although everything's over X'd a little bit, so everything's deeper than what it's supposed to be according to the plan. Because you can see underneath the bottom of those forms I've already got in. So that means you're probably running about 7 inches already. And then on the 2x4 where it's supposed to be 4 inches, it's probably running about 5 inches there. That form there that I just dropped down back of sidewalk, that's just some temporary bracing because we're dealing with 6-inch deep felt, which you can't really pour against that without some kind of bracing or something behind it to keep it straight. So that's not nailed, that's just pinched in with a couple steel stakes. Right here we're just trimming out a little bit of the mud, running the plate compactor. Because like I said, we're expecting inspection. And that mud was just from the cutting of the horizontal curve, so it didn't run real deep.
One.
Hi, David Odell here. We're on day 2, about midday. The inspector was just here. He took a look at this. First thing he said was this felt right here shouldn't be here. There should be no felt, and if you do put felt, that 2x4 is supposed to be on the other side of the felt. And also he said that this form is not straight, so we went ahead and ran a string line in front of him, assured him that it was straight. So we got by with that. And what happens with this situation, maybe a lot of people don't know it, I don't know, but most people do. What happens is this 2x4 right here comes out of the wet concrete after the felt is poured in place, because you can't pour concrete against felt suspended with no bracing on it. It'll just go like this. So you have to have temporary bracing on it. Then the form comes out, then the concrete hits the felt and it stays straight. So that comes out, so that's real simple. Now, what else? Oh, the dirt. Didn't like this dirt. Didn't like native soil, although the standards call for pouring on native soil. And this is Fullerton, so it's all this soil. So this soil apparently wasn't hard enough. I didn't sink in the dirt at all. So first of all, he gave me an option. The first option was take 6 inches out, everything, go down. My first thought is, why, when it doesn't call for that in the plan? My second thought was, who's going to pay for it? Is it going to be the city? Is it going to be the homeowner? So I'm thinking, well, maybe he doesn't like it because it's wet, this dirt. So let's let it dry, and then he can see if it's hard enough again, maybe in a week or whenever he decides to come here. But we'll wait to find out what goes on after that. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll keep you updated on this project. It's going to be exciting. Hi, David Odell here. This particular job we just came back to, it's 2.5 weeks later, because the inspector wanted to change the drawing, the engineered drawing that the city provides to everybody, how to build these, that we followed. He decided that, he wanted to go 12 inches deep rather than the 6 inches deep standard on the drawing. Or he wanted to go 6 inches down and then put 6 inches of base. But now we're 2.5 weeks later, and now we've got a new deal going. The new deal is we're going to only have to go down 4 inches only in the approach. We're going to pour it 10 inches deep rather than 12 inches everywhere, we've got it narrowed down to just this area, going down an additional 4 inches and then just pouring it in deep. So we talked about getting it re-engineered, this whole situation here, but you know, 4 inches ain't a biggie, I don't think. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna run into any utilities or anything like that. I mean, if you're going down a foot, 2 feet, stuff like that, maybe you're gonna hit some utilities, who knows. But right now we didn't hit anything, so it's pretty good, and it's according to drawing. But now we're gonna take that chance. Right now we're gonna go down deeper. Hopefully we don't run into some unknowns, you know, but let's get it on anyway. All right, here we are 2.5 weeks later, and we've came to the conclusion, or the inspector decided that we're going to go down 4 inches in the approach only area instead of an additional 6 everywhere. Oh, I forgot to mention, another option I was given on that felt, you know, at back of sidewalk, was apparently you can wiggle those in when they're 6 inches. That was another option. I should have just wiggled that felt down in there. And I thought that was interesting. But I don't know. Has anybody tried wiggling that felt in 6 inches deep? I'd just like to get some feedback on that. See if that's even possible. But anyway, I kind of left it the way I had it, and that's how I did it. So what we're the inspector's going to be looking at, he's going to be coming out here again. He's scheduled to come out here sometime before 9:30 a.m. on a Friday to verify that we removed this excess dirt. However, he didn't show up, but I had concrete on the road, so we went ahead and poured it anyway. So you can tell still, you know, even from day one to present day, that the Vermeer 4,000 pound unit's not sinking, and it never did. We're going to be pouring about 14 inches deep right back of curb, about halfway up, and then we get down to about 10 inches at top of approach, and then when we get into the city sidewalk, we're about 6-7 inches in that area. And you can tell by looking at the 6-inch felt there, and the space underneath that 2x4 where it's really technically should only be 4 inches. But we went ahead and we went the extra mile, you could say. Anyway, that about wraps up part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, the pour day. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.